The purpose of this video is to show you how the Gradebook works in Canvas. So once you're in a course, you'll click on Grades, and that will bring up the Gradebook view within Canvas. And notice that there are three lines right here in the corner. That is really just a toggle switch that you can bring back your menu with that, or make the Gradebook fit more of your screen to where you can see more of it. And so any gradebook program is just a spreadsheet. That's all this really is. It just has lots of powerful tools within the spreadsheet. And so you can see that we have student names on the left. We have assignment names across the top. And if you can't see one of the assignment names, then you can drag this column to where you can see that name show up more fully. You can resize any of the columns that you would like. If we click on a student name over here, then a drawer will pop open on the right side and show more information about that student. If we were to click on grades, we can see what students see when they click on the grades. And they see just themselves, of course. They see each of the assignments listed here. They see when that assignment is due based on the due date that you have put in Canvas. They see whether they have submitted that, what their score is, and out of how many total points that is. They can click here and see a little bit more detail of that, and that's not real informative for them, but there's a little bit of information there. If you weight your grades by groups, then the grading scale is here. And as long as you have a grading scheme in your course, then this is the only place where they see a letter grade attached to their percentage. And so there's some other options here that you can play with, and I'm not going to go into here, but you can see the way that a student sees grades. So I'm going to click back into grades here. And there are other options also within that drawer that's slid open on the right side within individual students that you can look at. We can go up here to the student name column and notice that there are three dots. Some people call that a snowman that shows up. We can click on that and we can sort alphabetically or reverse alphabetically. We can display by first name, last name, first name. You can also display other information here. If you need to see their ID number or what group maybe that they're in, if you have created groups for your students in Canvas. This is also where you would show inactive enrollments, people that were in your course at one time but dropped, and concluded enrollments, which is something that we really don't use. And so there's some options there within those three dots under the student name column. And those don't show up until you mouse over the student name column. Okay. Within each column for the assignment, there is also three dots that show up when you mouse over that thing. So if you click on that, you can sort your gradebook different ways there as well. You can sort the gradebook by this particular assignment, the grade low to high or high to low. That's usually how I sort mine to see kind of a grading scale. You can sort by what's missing to be at the top or what's late to be at the top. So there's some options there. This is a great tool within Canvas. Message students who. So when you click on that, you have some options right here. You can message students who haven't submitted this assignment yet. Give them a little nudge. Hey, you have not submitted the assignment that's due this Friday yet, or whatever. You can message students who haven't been graded. Hey, I'm trying to get to all the papers. Haven't gotten to yours yet, but be patient with me. Scored less than a certain amount, scored less than 70%. Sorry, you need to redo this assignment. Scored more than scored more than 90%. Hey, you did an awesome job on this assignment. Those are some options within there, and it will automatically find the people that fit this particular category here. And so you can do a subject for that and type a message for that, and just those students will get this message. Great tool within Canvas. You can curve the grades. I would just stay away from that. You can set a default grade. So let's say that this is just something, a class activity that you do in class, and basically as long as you're there and participating, everybody gets 10 points. And so you can set a default grade. You can say this one's worth 10, and so you could just put a 10 in here. And even if you had manually put in some grades before, you could overwrite those grades if you wanted to. But if you don't, then anything that you've put in already doesn't get changed. And so you put that there, and then you click on Set Default Grade, and everybody gets that score. If there were some people missing, then you could come back in here and go in and manually change their grade to a 0 or whatever their grade may have been based on their participation that day in that assignment or in that activity. We will get into this process of hiding grades and posting grades. We'll get into that concept later. You can enter the grades as points or percentages right here. You can download all the submissions if they were something that was done like in Word or whatever. You can download all those if for some reason you want to. And you can grade or you can get into your grade posting policy. And again, we're going to look at that later in another tool in the gradebook here. So several options there for each column that you can look at. Now we want to start looking at these menu options up here at the top. And so there are some options for the gradebook. This is not a major deal, but Learning Mastery, if you happen to use that tool within Canvas, if you don't know about it, you can go search it within the Canvas guides. But it will show the gradebook in the Mastery gradebook view. You can go to an individual view of students. Honestly, I'm not sure I would recommend that. This is the best view of the gradebook. If you want to go back because you changed a student's name, or if you have a TA or somebody else that grades things within your class, you can go back into the gradebook history and see who gave a certain student a grade. You can go back and see what your original grade was for a student and what you changed it to. So there's some good things in gradebook history if you need that. It's available here. All right. The view really is the most important menu up here. The view gives you lots of different really good options. And so in the view, you can arrange the gradebook by lots of different options here. You can arrange it by assignment name. And so you could do like all your quizzes at the beginning or all your assignment classes at the beginning or whatever. You can do it from due date, oldest to newest or newest to oldest. You can arrange your gradebook by point value. You can arrange it by module, from the first module to the last module. So it's kind of like in a timeline order. And so there's lots of options there. And do know, by the way, that you can grab a column and move it in whatever order you want to also. So you can move the columns in a custom order, basically, if what you want to view is not in this menu. Filters is awesome here. It's just a great tool. And so if you happen to group your assignments because you weight your grades, or it doesn't even have to be weighted, but if you just put your assignments in groups under assignments in the menu, then you could have, like, again, all of your homework listed in a group, and you can just show homework in the gradebook, so you don't have to scroll miles to the right to find it. You can filter your assignments by modules. And so if I click on that one, notice that this all modules showed up here at the top. And so I could go here and I just want to see week 1. Okay, so instead of, again, having to scroll to the right for miles to find, say, week 17 or whatever week it is, then you can just filter it by just that week and go in and grade just that week's assignments and not have to go find them everywhere. And so that's pretty handy. I like that. I'm actually going to go take this back to all modules and then under view, go to that filters again. If you cross-list your courses, you can view just one section at a time here if you would like. And then again, if you group your students into groups, you can, so let's say you're grading a project that's done in groups, and so you want to just grade one group at a time, then you can arrange it by those student groups. All right. Statuses, you can look in here in statuses, and you can set the colors and names of these things. Okay, so if we click on, say, late, we can go in here and change the late color to whatever we would like to show up in the cell in here. And your grade book will have different colored cells based on, like in this case, it would be light blue. Anything late is a light blue color. And you can change those to anything. Now, I would highly recommend, though, that you make these colors the same for all of your courses, so you don't get confused from course to course which color is what. So that's an option. And we'll look somewhere else where you actually control whether these things are possible or not to use. Okay. Excuse me. Statuses there, columns, and so you can add a notes column here, which is very handy to keep track of just different information on your students, and you're the only person that sees this. And so if I click on notes and add that column, I can widen, and again, you can do this with any column. I can widen this column, and so I can just make notes of, maybe David likes to be called Dave. I can make notes of maybe the student is working on their AA in business or whatever, just so I keep that in my mind, and that they're working towards that. Or maybe I have had a conversation with this student, and I know that they're going to go on and they want to work on their bachelor's and master's in a particular area, and so I can just have that conversation with them. I can put in information here that the student is married and has 3 kids, and whatever comments you want to make, and they're just there for you, so that you can either have more conversation with that student, or you can just keep those things in mind as the course progresses. And so the notes column is there. Do be aware that when you print or export your grade CSV file from here, that notes column does show up in that file. So you may want to, at the end of the semester, you may want to turn that notes column off and then export your CSV file. And the way you turn it off is by just going back to notes again and clicking it off. You can also go in and show your unpublished assignments, and I'm not sure necessarily exactly why you would want to do that, but you can. All right. And to be able to export your grades, as I was just saying, to be able to export your grades at the end of the semester or anytime you want to, you can go here to Actions, and here's where you export your grades as a backup file for admissions and records at the end of the semester, or anytime you want to print your grades for whatever reason. Import is a choice here, but it's relatively difficult to import grades into Canvas. It is possible, but basically the process is you export your grades as a CSV file, and then you would insert any columns that you want to in that export file, and put the grades for those outside activities or whatever you're wanting to import into your gradebook here. So you export the file, add whatever grade columns you want, and then you would come back here and import the file back again, because the only way you can import a file into Canvas Gradebook is if it has all the columns that you already have set up, all the information in there. Everything has to match up exactly. So you export, add what you want, and then pull it back in again if you actually want to import grades into Canvas. Just one other piece of information here. If I click inside of a cell for a particular assignment for a student, I do like this about this gradebook, that it will essentially kind of give you like a crosshairs here. So it highlights that column or outlines it and outlines the row. And so it's much easier to see exactly where you are in the gradebook. So if I click in this cell, it's very clear what I have there, or where I am in my spreadsheet. What I wanted you to notice is this little, some people call it the sliding glass door icon right there, a little arrow. What that means is a tray is going to open up. It's called the detail tray. Opens up from the right side. So when I click on that, this detail tray of this particular assignment or submission for this assignment shows up. Okay, I can go to Speed Grader here if I want to grade that. That's an option. And I see this student's grade, and I can enter it here if I wanted to. But this is also where you can manually change the status. So if it was submitted late, but you excused them for that, you can change it to excuse. You can change it to not being late and just make it none. You can leave comments here on this particular assignment. And so you just kind of need to be aware that that's there. And if you do use these statuses, that this is how you manually change those statuses. Okay. All right, we're going to get into kind of the more complex piece of what we can do here with this gradebook, and that involves this gear over here. And so if I click on this gear, it brings up this window. And so there's some great time-saving tools here, specifically in this late policies tab at the top. Notice there's two tabs here. So the late policies, and so I can automatically apply a grade for anything that's missing. And so if you've had a problem with that in the past with gradebooks, to where there's, like in the old Canvas gradebook, there was just a hyphen there, and that literally meant that that student was just not responsible for those points. And so you do have to be a little bit careful with this here. I don't know why the default is this way, but when I click off automatically apply a grade, for whatever reasons, it defaults to 100%. So some people have had problems with that. Why are my students that don't turn in their submissions getting 100% on that assignment? Well, you need to change this to most likely 0%, but you can change it to whatever you want for the number of points that your students would get for not turning something in. And so that's a great tool. Love that tool. You can also have an automatic late policy being deducted from your grades. And so maybe a typical one, so I'm going to click this off, a typical one would be, say, 10% per day. You can put in whatever percent you want. Now, you are a little bit limited here. So late submission deduction interval is either by day or hour. Hour I can see for maybe like a final project for the semester or whatever, and every hour it's late, it's, whatever percent off. And you can make this to where it only goes down to, the lowest you can get on an assignment is 50% or whatever. And so there's some options here for automatically late assignments. And the way you grade the assignment then is you would grade it just like anybody else's. Let's say if it's worth 20 points and you assign it, it's a 19 out of 20, then Canvas will automatically deduct that 10% for you. You don't have to make that calculation. So this is pretty handy also. I love both of these policies here. Here's the complicated thing within the gradebook in Canvas. So you may need to play with this or stay away from it, however you want to go here. So this grade posting policy. Normally, for most people, it would probably be set to automatically post grades. And really, I would kind of recommend that you just leave it that way. The other option is to manually post grades. So what that means is that all grades are hidden by default from your student view. And so I can see an example of this that, maybe you have a research paper in your class, and it takes you 2 weeks to grade all those research papers. And so just because you randomly chose somebody to grade first, you don't necessarily want that student to be able to see their grade before everybody else. You want to release all the grades at one time at the end of the 2 weeks when you're done with them all. But you still want to enter them as you go. And so the way you can do this is you can enter all the grades and so on when you have it on manually posted, and then we'll look at where you then post those. And so if I change this to manually posted, it explains a little bit of what's going on here. And again, you can play with this a little bit. Unless you have a scenario like I kind of just described or whatever, again, I would probably recommend just leaving it on automatically post grades. Okay? And for both of these policies, whatever changes you make here, you must hit update at the bottom for this to be true, for this to work now. And it tells you the gradebook settings have been updated. Okay? And so I didn't change my manually posting. I left it as automatic, but even with that, I can still go into an assignment here, and I can still hide the grades. So if you want to do that for some reason, then I'm just going to show you that I'm going to hide those. And it says only in specific sections. Again, that would only be if you cross-listed your courses. And it explains what's going on here. That when the grades are hidden, students can't see those. They won't get notifications about them. That kind of thing. And so I'm going to go ahead and hide these so I can show you what the other option is. Okay, so those are hidden now. And it tells you that by this little kind of outlined eyeball with the not symbol through it, the slash through it. So this is telling me that students cannot see that. Okay, cannot see the scores for that. And so now look how the menu has changed. Now it says post grades. And it does tell you here that all grades are hidden, which again is that eye icon. And so now I can go in here and say post the grades, and 6 are hidden right now for whatever reasons, mine's not, but do you want to post them for everyone, or do you want to post them only for the people that have actually you've put a grade in for? And again, do you only want to do it in specific sections? Maybe if you cross-listed, maybe you've only done one of them so far. And so I want to do it for everyone, and so I just hit post. And so now it's just going to basically go back the way it was before. That eyeball is gone, and all my grades are posted. Hopefully that shows you some of the tools within the gradebook and helps you to be able to communicate better with your students.